Rabotai, welcome back to Dalat Amot, the shel Halacha. Ein lo lakadosh baruch hu be'olama ela arba amot shel Halacha bilvad. We are going to continue right from where we left off in Sivkat and Chav Aleph, where the Rama said, "Umi shemit'aneh gimel yamim v'gimel leilot yishma havdala me'acherim." The Rama said that somebody who's going to fast 3 days and 3 nights, he should hear the Havdala from other people. We did see in the Mishnah Berurah, it doesn't have to be specifically 3 days. It could even be 2 days or even 1 day. We explained the reason why he had to use 3 days. But the point being is, a person who decides to fast after Shabbat, he needs to understand that the Havdala should be done by other people for him, because he can't drink. Comes the Mishnah Berurah today and he says in Sivkat and Chav Aleph, Vehu adin, the same halach is going to apply for this fasting business. De yachol lahavdil be'atzmo, he is able to go ahead and do Havdala by himself. V'yiten lacherem lishtot, and he's going to give the kosher Havdala to other people to drink. Ukdilel b'siman reish ayin bet sif tet, like it's brought on top in siman reish ayin bet halacha tet, which is 272, halacha number 9. The Mishnah Berurah is telling us a very big chiddush. When a person decides that he wants to fast after Shabbat, he has to hear Havdala. How is he going to do Havdala? 2 options. Option number 1, let other people do the Havdala for you. Be yotze with them, fulfill your obligation with them. Option number 2, you know, for whatever reason you've been always doing Havdala, or you want to do the Havdala, or your wife wants you to do the Havdala for the house, no problem. But how am I going to do it if I'm fasting? No worries. Option number 2, we're going to tell you to do the Havdala and let somebody else go ahead and drink that wine. From where do we know this halacha? That I'm able to go ahead and do the bracha, the Havdala, and the kosher Havdala, and then give it over to somebody else to drink. So the Mishnah Berurah tells us, look into Siman Reish Ayin Bet, and Halacha Tet over there has the same concept by Kiddush. Now, before we do continue, we have to understand, if you pay close attention to Siman Reish Ayin Bet, if you turn to that page, it's on page 101. If you look over there, it doesn't say Siman Reish Ayin Bet. It says Siman Ayin Reish Bet. The letters were turned around. Why? In Masechet Pesachim, the Gemara begins, the Gemara says, Or la'arba'a asar botkin et hachametz. On the or of the 14th of Nisan, we check the chametz. The Gemara goes, I think, about 4 or 5 pages at length, trying to identify, does or mean day, or does or mean night? Bottom line, the Gemara concludes or means night. Comes the Gemara asks an obvious question. Why didn't the Tana just say Ilel Arba'a Asar? Why didn't he just tell us on the night of the 14th of Nisan, one needs to check for chametz? The Gemara answers, because a person has to teach himself to speak in a more refined manner. Why am I saying this? Look how careful our Chachamim were, even when it came to the Siman. Not only by speaking refined, but also by the things that they wrote. When you spell Siman Reish Ayin Bet, it is spelled Chas v'Shalom Ra'av, famine, hunger. When you spell Siman Ayin Reish Bet, which is the same thing, it is spelled evening. Rabotai, it's a very important concept that comes to teach us how refined we have to be in our speech. In any event, we're now going to look into Siman Ayin Reish Bet in Halacha Tet. We want to speak over here, we want to see over here, where one can go ahead and do the Kiddush and give it over to somebody else. But before we do that, like usual, we're going to see other halachot that have not necessarily to do with that, but before we get there, we'll have to see those other halachot, which are very important. The Shulchan Aruch begins in Halacha Tet, B'makom she'en yain matzui. If you are in a place where wine is not found, or you went to a certain place, you went to your relatives, where they had yain she'enu mevushal. It's not cooked wine, and it's an open bottle, and the goya has used it. Can you use that wine? No. Or you had the only bottle in your house, now you have no wine around you. Or you went to a hotel, whatever the situation might be. If you find yourself without wine on Friday night, how does one do Kiddush? Comes the Shulchan Aruch and he says, "B'makom she'en yain matzui," in a place where wine is not found, yesh omrim, there are those that say, she'mekadeshin al shecher, you're going to do the Kiddush on beer, ushar mashkit, and on other beverages, chutz min hamayim. According to this yesh omrim, you're allowed to do Kiddush on Friday night, or even on Saturday. It doesn't say specifically what day. You're allowed to go ahead and do Kiddush either Friday or Saturday on beer or any other beverage except for water. You don't have wine, don't do Kiddush. However, when it comes to the Rosh, he says, and the Rosh will tell you like this. Balayla, when you're dealing with the night Kiddush, Lo yikadesh ala shecher, don't do the Kiddush on the beer. Ela al hapat, but rather do it on the bread. Uba boker, but in the morning, Saturday morning, Shabbat morning, yoter tov lekadesh ala shecher, it's much more better to do Kiddush on beer than bread. Shivarech alav shahakol, because you're going to bless on it shahakol, kodem birkat hamotzi, before the blessing of hamotzi. She'im yivarech ala pat tichila en kan shum shinui, because if you're going to bless hamotzi first, on the bread, there's not going to be any change in the way you're saying the bracha. It's not going to be able to say if it's a regular weekday or if it's Shabbat. V'divri ta'amhem. The Shulchan Aruch concludes and he says that the Rosh's words, there are reasonable words. They make sense. So you have to understand, how would one do Kiddush on Friday night if he has no wine? How do you do Kiddush with bread? Very simple. You wash your hands like you do for bread. You say the bracha of al nitzal yadayim. You dry your hands. Now you go to the bread. You start saying vaychulu shamayim ha'aretz, etc. Then you're gonna say the bracha on the hamotzi. Baruch ata Hashem Elokeinu melech olam hamotzi lech min ha'aretz. You're not eating the bread yet. Then you're gonna begin the kiddush bracha. When you conclude the bracha Baruch ata Hashem mikadesh ha-Shabbat, then you break the bread, dip it into salt, and then you eat it. That is how Kiddush is done on the bread on Friday night. Comes the Rosh and he tells you, why don't I want you to use the same method on Shabbat morning? It's a little bit problematic. Why? Because when you're going to go ahead and sit down right now and you're going to say, Amot shelech min haaretz, even after you said, Im tashiv mishabat raglecha, or even after you had said, Vishamru b'nei Yisrael, when you're saying Hamotzi, there's no real change. Because that's how people go ahead and say Hamotzi during the weekday. But if you go ahead and you're going to say Shahakol on the beer, there is a change. And then you're going to go wash your hands. And then you're going to say Hamotzi. So there is a change. That's why the Rosh says, what should you do on Friday night? Use bread instead of beer if you have no wine. What should you do Shabbat morning? Use the beer instead of bread. That is the Shulchan Aruch. Continues the Ramah, this is what we want to see. The next piece. The Ramah says, and so too the minhag is simple like the words of the Rosh. Friday night, you do the Kiddush on the bread if you don't have wine. Shabbat morning, you do Kiddush on the beer if you don't have wine. Comes the Shulchan Aruch, the Ramah, he says, V'im yain ba'ir. Here we go, Rabotai. What happens if you have wine? You have wine in the city. Lo yikadesh al pat. Do not do kiddush on the bread. Umi she'enu shote yain mishum neder. What happens if a person is not able to go ahead and drink the wine because he made a neder? He made a vow that he's not going to touch grapes or wine. He's not going to have any benefit from them. Yachol, continues the Roman, he says, Yachol likadesh alav. And this is what we want to see. The person is able to go ahead and do kiddush on it. V'yishtu acherum hamisubim imo. Let other people that are eating with him, let them drink the kiddush. Ve'im ein acherim imo. What happens if he doesn't have any other people and he has wine, but he made a neder? Yikadesh alapat v'lo ala yain. Let him do the kiddush on the bread, like the opinion of the Rosh, and not on the wine. Or yishma kiddush me'acherim, or let him hear kiddush from other people. So now you're asking if there's acherim, let them do the kiddush, correct? No. If you look into Sivkat and Lamed Daled, where it says, O yishma kiddush me'acherim, Rotzel Omar, he wants to say, Yelech etzel mushubim acherim shebekadeshim la'atzmam. Go to other people that are doing kiddush for themselves and let them fulfill your obligation. So that means there's nobody with you. Now you have to go out of your way. That's what he's telling you here. He's giving you two options. If you made a vow for whatever reason not to drink wine this week, or not to have anything to do with grapes, which is wine, and you have to do kiddush, number one, if there's other people in the house, let them do it. As simple as that. There's nobody there, you do it on the bread. However, when the Ramah says that if you should hear from other people, it doesn't mean that somebody is there. It means you should go out of your way and go listen from somebody else that is doing kiddush for themselves and fulfill your obligation with them. Okay. Now, this kiddush business over here is going to be applicable to the Havdala case. Just like by the kiddush, we so clearly ran it one more time. ומי שאינו שותה יין משום נדר, יכול לקדש עליו וישתו אחרים המסובים עמו. He's able to go ahead and do kiddush on that cup of wine, and let other people that are eating with him, let them go ahead and drink that cup of wine. Beautiful. From here, the Mishnah Berurah wants to apply to our case with the fast. By Havdala is going to be the same law. If a person is fasting and you can't drink the kos shel Havdala, no problem. Let somebody else go ahead and drink it. That is what the Mishnah Berurah is telling us in Sivkat Chav Aleph. Vehu adin, the same halach is going to apply. The yachol lahavdil be'atzmo, he's able to go ahead and do the Havdala himself. V'yiten lacherim lishtot, and give other people to drink. Ukedil el b'siman reish ayin bet siv tet, like is brought down on top in siman reish ayin bet in halacha tet. This is the opinion of the Mishnah Berurah that he brought down from the Ramah from Siman 272. However, Rabotai, we have a disagreeing opinion, a dissenting opinion. However, the Magen Avraham, Sheda bazeh sham narga, he threw on this halacha an axe. Meaning he cut it off. He says, absolutely not. You can't use this advice of the Mishnah Berurah that he wanted to compare it to the case of Kiddush. Why? He says, "Deze eine mutar rak davka kishacherim ba'atzmam ein yudiim levarech." When are we going to allow you to go ahead and bless and give it to somebody else to drink the wine? That specifically if they themselves don't know how to bless. But if they know how to bless, why are you doing it? If you have somebody else that's going to be able to do it, let them go ahead and do the Havdala for you. Why are you doing it and then giving it to them? V'lachen, therefore, the Magen Avraham concludes and he says, therefore, this advice of what the Ramah said on top in the Shulchan Aruch, in the Ramah where he said, Yishma Havdala me'acherim, that advice is much better. It is better for a person to go ahead and listen Havdala from other people than to go ahead and do the Havdala and the kos shel Havdala where you have other people and give it to them. We're not dealing with ignorant people. He can do it, let him do it. Why are you doing it? Rabotai, if we look back into Siman Reish Ayin Reish Bet, Halacha Tet, if you see over there in Sivkat Lamed Gimel, where it's going back on the Ramah, where the Ramah said, where a person is not going to drink wine because of a vow, he's able to do Kiddush on it, and let other people that are eating with him, let them drink it. Comes the Magen Avraham and this piece and he says like this, in the case of the Kiddush, if the case of the Kiddush is going to be a sur, how much more so the case of the Havdalah? So comes the Magen Avraham and he says, and in the Magen Avraham he tilted, the asur bazel likadesh amenat sheishtu acherum. He says it's asur in this fashion to do Kiddush on condition that other people are going to go ahead and drink the wine. Why? Kevan shehem yudi'im levarech ba'atzmam borei prei gefen. Since they know how to bless the blessing themselves of borei prei gefen. V'kidmucha l'kam siman reish ayin gimel seif daled. Like it's proven later on in Siman Reish Ayin Gimel, that is Siman 273 in Halacha number 4. Rather, what does the Magen Avraham tell you? Elahem yikadshu be'atzmam v'hu yikadesh ala pat. If he wants to do Kiddush, let him do Kiddush on the bread and let him do Kiddush for themselves. But he cannot go ahead and do the Kiddush on condition that other people are going to drink. Now, when you go back to Siman Reish Tzadik Tet, in Simchat Nechav Aleph, you can understand the Ramah, where the Mishnah says, Acha Magen Avraham shada b'zeh sham narga. But on this piece, the Magen Avraham threw an X on it. He doesn't like this halacha. According to the Magen Avraham, if a person is doing Kiddush, or even Havdala, like in our case, initially, when you have other people that are able to do it for you, or even for themselves, and you want to go ahead and do it on condition just to give them the wine to drink, the Magen Avraham says, absolutely no. You're not allowed to do it. In the case of Kiddush, he said, go ahead and bless on bread. Do the Kiddush on the bread. Let everybody else do Kiddush on wine. In the case of Havdala, the Magen Avraham is going to tell you, go ahead and listen from other people. Meaning, let somebody else who's being yoytze in his Havdala fulfill your obligations also there, like the Ramah had paskined on top in the Shulchan Aruch. Now, Rabotai, we have to understand, what do we hold? If you look over here, there's a Yud Aleph. In Amodei Horah, we're going to go in Rabbi Dahan's Amodei Horah, I note Yud Aleph. He says like this. You have to know the whole sentence again. I'll say it one more time. And then when we go straight into Rabbi Dahan's understanding of the Mishnah, is going to bring us, what do we hold now? So what do we say? We said that according to the Magen Avraham, a person is not allowed to go ahead and do the Havdalah by himself, unless, one second, a person not able to go ahead and do the Havdalah by himself, on condition that he's going to give other people to drink. Rather, he says, let them do it themselves. Because when was this whole rule said that you're allowed to go ahead and do the Kiddush or even Havdalah? That is specifically when the other people don't know how to bless, so you're blessing and now you're giving to them. The Magen Avraham says specifically then, you could go ahead and do that kind of Kiddush, or you can go ahead and do Havdalah. Comes Rabbi Dahan and he says, Ve'ena mukhrach. You're not forced to say what the Magen Avraham is saying. You're not forced to say that this whole halacha, where he says that if you could do Kiddush or Havdalah for somebody else, that's only if they don't know, you're not forced to learn that. He continues. Why? The Ikar HaKpeda, because the main, the Ikar HaKpeda Ba'adam, HaMikadesh Umatim Lacheren, Ha'inu Mishum Data Geonim. The main reason that we were particular with the person that's doing Kiddush and is allowing other people to taste is because of the opinion of the Geonim. What is the opinion of the Geonim? If we look into Siman Reish Ayin Aleph and see if you Dalet, which he actually brings down over here, and he says like this. What did the Geonim hold? Maybe I should do it for you inside. Okay. You know something? Let me do it with you inside, because you're gonna have a better understanding of what he's saying over here. Reish Ayin Aleph, see if you Dalet. Okay. So let's go to Siman Reish Ayin Aleph, Halacha Yud Aleph. That's 271, Halacha number 14. Okay, Rabotai. Here, I have it on page 97. Another halacha. Im lo ta'am ha-mikadesh. A very big problem, Rabotai. What happens if the mikadesh, he didn't taste? One of the biggest problems we have today, when the balabait or the one that's doing kiddush, when he tastes, he goes like this. Right? As if it's hot water or hot tea. He sips a little bit. Rabotai. It's a very big problem. Let's see why. Im lo ta'am ha-mikadesh. If the mikadesh did not taste the wine, v'ta'am echad meha-misubin kimelo lugmav. Yatsa. But somebody else from the people that were sitting with him, he went there and he tasted, meaning he drank kimelo lugmav. He says, pirush melo piv. Right? He has to fill up his mouth. Yatsa, we're going to tell you that he fulfills his obligation. Now, I want to just share with you something. When it says misubin, if you pay attention to the way I'm translating it, I'm saying the ones that are eating with him. The word misubin literally means the ones that are reclining with him. There's a whole halacha, there's a whole siman that speaks about that their reclining is our sitting down today. So I'm just going Rabotai with the more correct way of saying it. But misubin literally means they would recline, and that's how they would have their meal. Because they used to have those mattresses on the floor, not like we have today, chairs. So he says like this: Im lo ta'am mikadesh, if the mikadesh did not drink from the wine, v'ta'am echad meha misubin, kimlo lugma, pirush melo piv, yatsa. But somebody else from the misubin, from the ones that was reclining or sitting with him to have a bread meal, he went ahead and he drank the wine, kimlo lugma, a full cheek full. Yatsa, we're going to tell you that the people there fulfilled their obligation in the Kiddush. What happens, you have two people, they go ahead, each one is going to drink a half a cheek full. Each one guy, Reuven drank a half a cheek full, Shimon drank a half a cheek full. The Shulchan Aruch says, they're not yoytze the Kiddush. Nevertheless, when you have two people, when they're drinking the wine to join to Melol Gmav, you cannot do it. You cannot have two people drinking to combine for Melol Gmav. Nevertheless, mitzvah mina muvchar shiyeta am'u kulam. Nevertheless, he says the best possible way to do the mitzvah is that everybody should taste from the Kiddush. V'yesh omrim, and there are those that say, the kevan sheben kulam ta'amu kimelo lugmav. Where there are other opinions that want to learn that since if amongst everybody that is sitting there on the table, if I join all of them, if I take their wine from their mouth and it's going to come out to a cheek full, he tells you here, Yitz'u, they do fulfill the obligation in Kiddush. Dishtiyat kulam mistarefet l'kishiur. Because the Yesh Omri want to learn that the drinking of everybody is going to be able to join for the proper measurement for the Melol Ugmav. Here we go, Rabbotai. This is what Rabbi Dahan wants to bring down. V'hageonim sovrim. However, the Geonim held, she'im lo ta'ama mikadesh lo yata. If the one that's doing the Kiddush, he did not taste from the wine, you did not fulfill the obligation of Kiddush. V'ra'ui lachush l'divrehem. The Shulchan Aruch says it's proper for you to be concerned for the words of the Geonim. V'davka b'Kiddush, and specifically by Kiddush, we're going to tell you that this applies. Aval b'shar devar ma'teonim kos, but in other things that require kos, like for example by the chuppah or kos shel bracha, by brikat hamazon and things like that, modim ha'geonim, the Geonim are going to agree, desagi b'ti'imat acher. They're going to all agree that it's enough if the other person went ahead and he tasted from the wine. Now, Rabotai, when we're going to go ahead now, I want to just read for you the halacha in the Yalkut, in the Tzionim in number 42, what Rav Yitzchak Yosef Shlita writes when it comes to tasting. Who do we hold like? The Stam, the Yesh, or the Geonim? Comes Rav Yitzchak Yosef Shlita, and he writes in the Sefer Yalkut Yosef, Shelechatchila, the best possible way to do the mitzvah, Ra'ui, it's proper, V'nachon, it's correct, Shamikadesh atzmo yishte mehayayin milol lugumav, that the one that is doing the Kiddush, he wants to go ahead and drink a cheek full. V'lo yiten le'echad min ha'misubin, and do not give it to somebody that is reclining with you on the table, meaning somebody that is going to sit down with you on the table. She'yishte b'mkumo, that he should drink in his place, milol lugumav, that you shouldn't do. You shouldn't go ahead and do the Kiddush and then give it to somebody else to drink the Melol Ugmav. That Rav Yitzchak Yosef Shlita says, Lechatchila, like the Shulchan Aruch Paskins, we want you to be concerned for the words of the Geonim. Nevertheless, Im echad hamisubim shata milo lugmav bimkomo. But if it already happened, Rabotai, the guy went and he gave it. He says, nevertheless, if one of the misubim, one of the people that was sitting with them on the table, went ahead and he drank a milo lugmav, a cheekful, instead of the person that was doing the kiddush, yitzeu kulam yidei chovat hakiddush. Everybody fulfills their obligation when it comes to doing the kiddush, because you have to remember, Rabotai, when you're doing kiddush, kiddush does not mean you drink what? No, Rabotai. You have to imagine like this. Friday night, you're about to do kiddush. You sing Shalom Aleichem, Eshet Chal Mi'imtza. Now you're going to begin the kiddush, correct? The kiddush brach, which we've been speaking about a lot, on the last portion, after you have Vaychulu, you have the Savri Maranan, B'rei Gevin, and then you have the bracha, Baruch Atah Hashem Mikadesh Shabbat. That third bracha, you have to be yoytze it. How can a person fulfill his obligation for saying that bracha? It's not enough to sip. A person has to be able to drink a cheekful. So then when a person drinks, he wants to put enough wine in his mouth and move it to the side to make sure that it is a cheekful. This is the best way to go about the mitzvah. You cannot do it, and somebody else did it. Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef says you're going to rely on the other opinion that say it helps. We did see another opinion that says two people cannot join for a cheekful. Other opinion says you can have even 10 people that could join for a cheekful. Whatever it is, the best way, the one that's doing the kiddush, he wants to be able to get a melul ugmav. Now, let's go back to Siman Reish Tzadik Tet. Okay, so one more time, Rabotai, in Sivkat Yud Aleph, where the Magen Aram said that this whole business of doing the kiddush or doing the Havdala and then giving it to somebody else, that's only allowed if they don't know how to bless. Excuse me. If they don't know how to bless, comes the Amot and he says, "Ve'enu mukhrach." We are not forced to learn like the Magen Avraham. The ikrat peida be'adam hamikadesh umatim la'acherim ha'inu mishum dat ha'geonim. The main reason why we are particular with the person that's doing the kiddush and then he wants to go ahead and give somebody else to taste, that is because of the opinion of the Geonim, which I just read for you. That where they say that the one that's doing the kiddush, he should be drinking the melul ugmav. That's the reason why we're particular, because of that reason. Here we go. He says, She'im lo ta'ama mikadesh. Now you can understand Rabbi Dahan better. If the one that is doing the kiddush did not taste, meaning he didn't have a cheekful, lo yatsa, he doesn't fulfill the mitzvah according to the Geonim of kiddush. Anybody wants to be yotze with him, they also don't fulfill their mitzvah. V'zedavka b'kiddush deoraita. Like the Mishnah Berurah, by the way, brings it down over there. This is specifically by kiddush deoraita, by Friday night alone. V'lo b'shad berachot, but not by other berachot. Let me just see something. Just want to make sure about that. Apologize, 1 second. Yes. If you look into Siman Reish Ayin Aleph and Sivkat Ayin Daled, he says V'davka b'kiddush. When the Geonim say V'davka b'kiddush, right? So over here, Shehud davar Torah, because kiddush is from the Torah. V'asmuchu akra l'kadesh al hayayin, and they depended it on the verse to go ahead and do the kiddush on the wine. So the kiddush that we do is from the Torah. So that's why over there the Geonim are going to tell you that if you didn't drink a cheekful, you're not going to be yoytze. 1 second. Okay. Now, so that's what comes over the hand, and he says, this opinion of the Geonim. She'im lo ta'ama mikadesh lo yatsa. If the one that was doing the kiddush, he didn't drink a cheekful, he doesn't fulfill his obligation. When do we say he doesn't fulfill his obligation? V'zedavka b'kiddush deoraita. That is specifically by kiddush, which is from the Torah. V'lo b'shar berachot, but not by any other bracha. Ve'en lomar, and now he's coming to tell you, and don't say, the Havdala Do'oraita, Vidiru ki Kiddush. Don't come now and tell me that maybe the Magen Avraham is right. Why? 1 second, let me see something. 1 second. 1 second, please. Ve'en lomar the Havdala Do'oraita, Vidiru ki Kiddush. Correct. Rabotai, 1 second. So I want to see something, if it's going back on the Magen Avraham. Right. Correct. What is Rabbi Dahan saying now? He says, and don't tell me now that Havdala is from the Torah and his din is like Kiddush. Meaning to say, just like by Kiddush, if you taste and you didn't drink and you give somebody else, you're not Yotzeh according to the Geonim, because that's from the Torah. So too over here by Havdala, when this guy that wants to fast Amot Shabbat, if he's going to go ahead and do the Havdala and he's not going to drink, we're going to tell you that's what the Magen Avraham is saying, that he's not Yotzeh the mitzvah of Havdala because he's not drinking it. Comes Rabbi Dan and says, don't say that. One more time. Don't say that Havdala is from the Torah and it has the laws of Kiddush, so maybe the Magen Avraham is correct. Maybe really the guy shouldn't be doing the Havdala. Maybe somebody else should do it on his behalf. Because if he's doing the Havdala and he's not drinking it, comes out, he's not fulfilling the mitzvah of Havdala, just like by Kiddush. Because if we're going to compare Havdala to Kiddush, just like Kiddush is from the Torah, so too Havdala is from the Torah. Just like by Kiddush, the Geonim say that if you drank and you didn't taste, you're not Yotzeh. So too by Havdala, if this person that's fasting, if he said the Havdala, but he didn't taste, he's not Yotzeh the mitzvah of Havdala. Don't say that comes from Rabbi Dahan. Why? Chada, reason number one. The enzim muskam she'Havdala doraita. Number one, it's not agreed upon all the rabbis that Havdala is from the Torah. That's number one. And furthermore, the hakvar hivdil b'tefillah, because you already did Havdala in your Aravit prayer when you said Atachonantanu. Ulekula ama Havdala ala kos enelad midrabanan. When you did Havdala in your Aravit prayer, everybody's going to tell you that the Havdala that you're doing now is only from the rabbis. So once again, this Magen Abraham's words really don't have enough weight now because it's from the rabbis. Ubefrat, and especially the Me'ikar Hadin lo kamalan kedata geonim, and especially says halachically we don't hold like the geonim. Bezeh avli in Kiddush, we don't even hold like the geonim when it comes to Kiddush. Why? He says, look into Siman Reish Ayin Aleph, see if you dalit, where we saw it right before we came over here. Look, it makes sense. It says over there, Rav Yitzchak Yosef said it, the Shulchan Aruch himself said it, Lachush l'direm, you should be concerned for the words of the Geonim. But it doesn't mean that that's halakha. V'chein katav b'Yalkut Yosef. And so too the Yalkut Yosef wrote the same thing. The Yalkut Yosef wrote the same thing. She'im einu yachol l'shtot be'atzmo, yachol la'atim kos havdala la'achir. That if the person is not going to go ahead and drink the cup himself, meaning the Havdala, kosher Havdala himself, he's able to go ahead and allow other people to taste the course of Havdala. Basically, Rav Yitzchak Yosef Shlita is going like the Mishabur, where he says, "The Yachol Havdil B'atzmo v'yitel la'acherim l'shtot," that he's able to do Havdala himself and give other people to drink. That's what Rav Yitzchak Yosef Shlita is saying. He's going with the opinion of the Mishabura and not like the Magen Avraham. Continues Rabbi Dan and he says, "V'chen matatzi b'pikudat Eliezer." He says, I also found in Pikudat Eliezer, Siman Reish Ayin Aleph, B'shem Ha'itur, which is a Rishon, I believe, the Avladat HaGeonim Gabi Havdala Yatza. That even according to the opinion of the Geonim, when it comes to Havdala, in such a situation, you would be Yotzeh. Only by Kiddush, since it's from the Torah, we're going to tell you that you are not Yotzeh. Okay. Rabotai, we're going to conclude over here. I know it was one small Sivkat Chav Aleph, but you saw how much we had to go back and forth. Nevertheless, Rabotai, halachically, bottom line, if a person is going to fast after Motzei Shabbat, he has two options. Option number one, he's able to hear Havdala from other people to fulfill his obligation in the mitzvah of Havdala. Option number 2, if he wants, he can go ahead and do the Havdala himself and let other people drink the kosher Havdala. We did see 2 important halachot outside of this halakha. In Siman, first we'll go to Siman Reish Ayin Bet, where over there we spoke about that if you don't have wine, Friday night you're going to do Kiddush on the bread. Saturday morning, Shabbat morning, you're going to do Kiddush on the beer and not on the bread. Then we did see very important in Siman Reish Ayin Aleph, in Halacha Yud Dalet, where it came to tasting wine, lechatchila, the proper way, the correct way. We want the one that's doing the Kiddush, we want him to go ahead and drink Melo Lugmav, to drink a cheekful. However, the Yalkut Yosef did mention, if he did not drink that cheekful, and somebody else drank it in his place, we're going to tell you, you fulfill your obligation. Rabotai, have a great day. Baruch Adonai Olam. Amen ve'amen.